Yeah, it is a small committee. Look, welcome everyone to the second meeting of the Water Committee, and welcome to those online. We do have all of our councillors here, and welcome to Mayor Campbell as well. So yeah, the agenda is in front of us. We don't have any apologies. Declarations of interest relating to this agenda? None. Okay. We don't have anyone on public forum. So item 4 is the minutes of the Water Committee meeting from our December meeting. So let me just get... So is there any questions or points to note from those? No? Can I have someone move and second? Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Barry. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, item 5. Andrew. So our business unit project status update.
Good morning, everyone. Right. So this is the second status report on the Water Services Business Unit Establishment Project. We're into weekly project working groups now, so in terms of a cross-functional, there we go. In terms of cross-functional project team, we're hitting our straps. We've also held our first PCG, Program Control Group. That was about 2 weeks ago. Just in terms of the overall status of the project, it's in an amber status, and that's reflecting the initiation phase that we're going through. So still got some key scope questions to nail down. Project budget also needs to be, in terms of funding it, the approval for the budget and the funding of it needs to be approved. And yeah, resourcing is the other key phase, or key piece that needs to be confirmed as well. So just stepping through those. In terms of scope, the technology aspects of the project are sort of a key scope area we need to agree. That's based on the financial ring fencing and just how we use the existing systems and what are the changes required to the existing systems to support the financial ring fencing piece. So we're making good progress there. Those requirements are now with the technology teams to delve into. And then the other piece is just setting up the asset management systems so that our asset management systems capture all the data that's needed for Commerce Commission reporting. And just in general, we lift our capability. I think I've mentioned this a few times now. We've got to lift our capability around asset management. The Commerce Commission requires us to have total life cycle management and evidence that through all our planning processes through to the end state of life of assets. So that's in terms of the new information. So that's just a summary of where the project is at. I just want to call out just in terms of the project budget. So that's the first time we've put in front of this committee an indication of what we think this project's going to cost. It's a combination of external resources. So we know that we're going to need to bolster the team and bolster internal teams in the asset space. So there's it's quite considerable work required there. There's just highlighting as well within the budget we've still got and we still need to complete the finance piece to nail down the finance changes to confirm the technology budget. So that's in red at the moment as a TBC, but as an indication, the budget that's in front of you is what we expect this to cost. There's annual planning process where this funding, the annual planning process for next financial year will pick up the funding for this project, so it'll be reflected in there. What else would I like to call out? I'll just check my notes here. So we've got, in terms of Commerce Commission requirements, we've got 30 June 26 requirements for first disclosures. and they relate to policy for funding growth. So how does ICC fund growth? In terms of other pieces, which also ties in with development contributions and fees and charges, we have to describe those and submit those to the Commerce Commission. So there's quite a bit of work required there to gather that information, and we'll be coming back to this committee with a proposed approach around forming a policy for funding growth. Right, what else? I think there's anything more that's worth calling out, but happy to take questions based on what I've run through.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Mayor Campbell?
I've got two. The table at the top of page 3, which shows the project establishment cost, basically, it's the cost of establishing that business, I think. These are mainly project costs, aren't they? They are not ongoing costs. They're costs that are being borne to set it up. And therefore my question is, will that be capitalised, or how are we going to deal with it financially?
Pass to Patricia.
Through you, Chair. The proposal is that these would be capital fund, they would be borrowed for and funded over 5 years and repaid over 5 years, so quite short-term borrowing, recognising that they are implementation costs and set up.
Okay, thank you. The second question I had, we've got the project governance group that's established. Can you differentiate between that governance group and this governance group for me?
Sure. So it's got our key operational business stakeholders. So Matt Keel, Michael Day's there. We've got Patricia. So it's our day-to-day management of the project to ensure that it stays within governance, and we're making proper progress. And then it reports up through to this forum as the ultimate decision-making authority and escalation point for key issues. So in terms of we've got a project initiation document that sets out the governance structure and provides a term of reference for that group.
So that project governance, and I presume it's governing the project. It's a bit like, I guess, a museum has got a project governance group, right? But when the project is complete in the sense that, we have the programme in place, will that project governance group then disappear? I'm just a little bit concerned that how we saw this committee, which was as close as we can to having essentially a board, a CCO without a CCO, gets undermined by the fact that sitting underneath it is another governance group, which is, so I just want reassured that isn't going to happen.
Well, just before we answer that, because I had a couple of questions on that too, so I think what I'd like to do is get some discussion going between the councillors around that structure, if you like. So, and then might take some questions, because there'll probably be stuff pop out of that. So yeah, does anyone else have any points on that before I have my say, Alex?
I don't think it's quite as confusing in the sense that with most projects, or especially with stuff at this scale, there's always us as a board assuming, well, we are, and then the second tier that gives effect to the decisions that we're making. So there needs to be a project management or project management group. Is that not how it functions?
Yeah.
Through yourself, Chair, it's probably best as CE I answer that position. The governance board that's sitting from an operational perspective sits across the whole organisation in relation to transition, so we are looking at the whole org impact. The view is that it's initially only there for the first 6 months. Governance from Three Waters sits at this governance board. It's only for that transitional period in relation to getting the operations up and running, getting the systems up and running, getting the rest of the org supporting the services in the correct shape and form. So we have to be looking wider than just the Three Waters entity as a component. We're looking at the whole org as a governance and it is a project governance board at an operational level that's been formed.
Yes, because my question, and it did reference back to the sort of how we've done the museum. I think governance, we need to have some oversight of what's happening in that committee, and maybe my thought was we have someone from this committee sit in there as an observer almost, just to make sure there's a connection between that operational governance piece and the actual governance piece. I sense that probably it's a lot more operational, so having it come through something like this is just going to be too clunky and too time consuming. But I do think, and I think the point you're making, Tom, we do need from this level some sort of connection into that, more so than just coming through to the as a report to the committee. And speaking from experience, it's invaluable sitting in on one of those and just marinating, I'll use that word, around what the operational team's going through, and then putting your governance hat on and thinking about then what implications that has at a governance level. So, I'm pretty keen to see if we can get someone from this table sitting in on those meetings. What's the frequency of them?
Every 4 weeks.
Right, so it's monthly. Yeah. So we might take that away and have a bit of a chat.
Correction, fortnightly.
I'm just looking. Can't remember.
Yeah.
We were setting up fortnightly just while we're going through this setup phase and lots of key decisions, and then it would go back to a 4 weekly.
And so the minutes from that meeting, would they come through to this committee?
Through yourself, Chair, not normally we would have a report back from the sponsor, from the executive sponsor, and that executive sponsor sitting on that is currently myself as CE, but going forward we'll be looking at transition to the GM of the water services over time. But I would caution about having your governance sitting in there, because it does cloud in relation to the separation of duties and being able to govern the service over, from a longevity point of view, from a council perspective, as opposed to the operations when we're looking at the full org impact. We're discussing things about the shape and form in relation to the organisation, about where the services sit, how the IT will flow through. The impacts of those will be flowed through to this board in relation to these are the outcomes, and that's part of what Andrew's presenting. He will be presenting a regular report to this committee on what's coming through from that governance board. So there is a regular reporting to here, and it will be at every single meeting. So we've scheduled it to come to every meeting in relation to an update of that, because the frequency monthly is going to the cadence is going to be quite tight, because we are trying to actually go at pace. We've got 6 months to get this done in relation to the first phase. We're planning on reporting every single time.
I think it would help me to think about distinguishing between the work of those two groups, if it was called the project oversight group rather than a project governance group.
Yeah.
Getting hung up on the word governance.
Because look, when we decided to go the way that we have, rather than go with the CCO, it was very important. We recognised right from the beginning to be able to demonstrate that this was not business as usual.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This was going to be a board-like establishment that would be almost a CCO without the cost of a CCO. And I think that, to me, I'm a little bit uncomfortable that looked at from the outside, or even the inside, but looked at from the outside, having the project governance group made up of management sounds a little bit like business as usual. Project oversight group, I know it's only a different word, but it maybe distinguishes a little bit between the, because fundamentally it's a management group, it's management oversight of the project.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Tom. And look, it's been helpful to have this discussion, and thanks, Michael. Now I've got a better understanding of, and IT is probably the great example where, there's a significant IT ask in this piece, but you're not going to do that isolated from the overall organisational IT perspective, right? Because there could be stuff that comes out of here that can apply to other areas. So, I get that. So that's a good discussion. So, to your point, Tom, I think if we record that just as a sort of in the notes, that we want to see a change of what can you...
Well, I think Project Management Oversight Group
Yeah.
would make me more comfortable in
There's
project
a
governance.
good acronym we can get out of that. So if we do that,
Call it what it is.
yeah.
I agree.
Barry?
There's a lot of consultancy pricing in here. Have we?
Hang on, we're on to another topic now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've signed that off?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In my mind, it was project set up, positioned, and that would be circulated back through
Yeah.
this governance group as Three Waters governance. So it didn't raise a flag, but I completely agree with the mayor that kind of naming it what it is a lot clearer.
Yeah, just makes it
Yeah.
transparent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that there was any untransparent.
Good call.
Thank you. Righto, now, next questions. Sorry, Barry.
There's quite a lot of consultancy pricing in here. Is that consultant already on board with all this?
I can answer that. So we're putting together an overarching procurement plan for the project. The priority external support that we need right off the bat is to support the 30 June 26 information disclosure requirements. So that's principally legal, some external legal support, and then some Morrison Lowe support as well to, or we're proposing that we direct appoint those. So we've got to go through the procurement approvals processes to direct appoint those. And then for the balance, it would be taking out to a request for quote or request for proposal for some of the asset management functions support that we need. So no one appointed yet, and in progress through procurement approvals. And I'll call out and quite open the project delivery piece. There's, in terms of the way the budgets come together, it's based on our point-in-time understanding of scope. So as scope is refined over the next few weeks, we'll be able to refine this and present the overarching project initiation document and its key outcomes to the next committee for approval, which would be the finalised budget, scope and resource profile.
It's Better Off Fund. Have we earmarked it for a area?
Yes. There will be a process to go through to claim that funding. So it's all subject to DIA approval, but the intent is to earmark it for this work. And that's in line with the funding agreement as well.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of cost questions as well. So, and probably what I'm trying to get clear in my head is around the methodology of how we're costing these this program. So, can you talk through how we're doing that? So, are we using a per hour rate and then multiplying that by the number of hours we think will be involved in a particular work stream, and that equals the cost? Like, how are we actually doing the costing to this project?
So, so for the external piece, that's really just based on a experience around what, and I guess that's the refinement piece that's available. But it's a straight line of legal support through the life of the project to just be sure that we've got sufficient overarching funding for that, and the same with the regulatory piece. It's broken down into, in terms of the financial advisory piece, we've broken down when it comes to resourcing, it's a percentage of the resources time. So we need, under financial ring fencing, we need to be able to capture people who are spending time on water services and make sure that that's been allocated to the water services. And for this project, it's capturing the percentage of time that we expect that person to be dedicated or allocated to the project, times their rate, salary cost, and that's how we arrive at the overarching internal resource cost.
And do we do any market comparisons with those costings?
So the costings, so internal resources, they are, they are what they are in terms of their rates. External, so through the procurement piece, we're expecting to, particularly in the asset management side, we'll be going out to a number of suppliers and requesting quotes from them. So we'll be going through a competitive process for quite decent chunks of the work. But then when it comes to legal, there's basically putting forward the case that prior experience in legal and the financial advisory is that it's a good case to hang on to these guys, and particularly that it's a near-term deliverable, 30 June 26. So we've really got to make some progress on those.
And then, so on page 3, the second last paragraph, it is expected 2.3 million of corporate costs. So can you talk me through how that you've landed on that number?
That's I'll pass to Patricia. But the background, it was flagged within the water services delivery plan off the back of that work. But
So at the time of doing, through you, Chair, the time of doing the water service delivery plan, we had to estimate across the organisation how much of the corporate costs of the organisation should be directed towards, used to support the delivery of the water activities. And that's how we worked out, based off our internal costing, what the number should be. And that's where that 2.3 came through as part of planning. That will get refined over the next 12 months as we go through start the financial ring fencing and have determined with more accuracy who and what and how much time they are spending on water.
So further to that, so what will the committee see around the progress of our performance against budget in terms of our costings? What's the frequency and how will we see that performance?
So the performance is included, as it is at the moment, included within the quarterly performance reports. So water is the 3 waters activities are reported through. That shows that doesn't show the allocation of corporate, because we don't do that for this financial year. Next financial year will change that.
So we will see against budget versus actual reporting each month as we progress
No,
through
each quarter. Because we are quarterly performance, it adds an extra layer of if the committee was to request monthly financial reporting, it adds an extra resource requirement.
Yeah, I suppose, if you think this is meant to be running for about 6 months, isn't it? So,
This project will be running for 6 months.
So we're only going to see one report in effect in the middle and then the end. I challenge, we should be able to pull out a report against these costings every month.
So you said about water, not about the transition.
No, well, I was meaning the transition cost.
So the transition can be
The
reported
costs on
every
page
month.
3.
It'll come through when the oversight group reports up every month.
So it'll come through every month?
Yeah.
Okay,
The
cool.
overall water activity you see every quarter.
Yeah, I know that. No, I was meaning the costings related to this transition program. Okay, then on page 4, in our risks and mitigants table, you've got right at the very bottom in the mitigants piece about the external assurance. Who's doing that for us? And what does that look like?
At the moment, through your chair, at the moment we understand that the external assurance will come through from Audit New Zealand, but we haven't received anything because it's an Office of the Auditor General appointment, and I can't imagine that the Office of the Auditor General is going to appoint an auditor for the water ring fencing any different than the auditor for the main council. So we're still waiting for those as a sector to come through.
Yeah, so it's part of this sort of overall change. Okay.
And
Thank you.
I guess in addition to that, the use of Morrison Lowe provides, in terms of review of information disclosure requirements and our submission against those, having an external party like them reviewing that just provides that added level of assurance.
When we considered the various models, I remember, if I remember correctly, the CCO project cost was 6 million, if I remember correctly. I think that was the number that we quoted. Does that mean that by doing it this way we have saved 3 million, or did the 6 million not include the costs that we're looking at now?
I would just in terms of experience with other councils, 6 million is very cheap for a CCO.
No, I think so too, but I think that was the number that we quoted. Am I right? People are looking at me a little bit blankly.
I'd need to double check that, but in terms of the effort and the work needed to be compliant as a water services business unit, that's you would need to do that as well in setting up a CCO. So what we're looking at would have escalated for all the options in terms of delivery.
I mean, I think 3 million is actually quite a reasonable cost, Chair, you know, just from my experience in this kind of thing. I mean, I don't see it as a ridiculous number. I'm a little bit surprised that we're still looking at 25% contingency. I mean, normally the amount of contingency shrinks as you know more and more about the project.
Yeah, that's right.
I would have thought 25% is quite a big number to have in at this stage. So that surprises me. But the kind of sum total of 3 million, between 2 and 3, is not I don't think is an unreasonable number, and much less than if we'd set up a CCO.
So just on that,
Michael's looking
oh
at
sorry,
comment.
yep, Michael.
Through yourself, Chair, sponsor, I'd just like to talk to why we have that 25 contingency currently sitting in there. At the moment, we don't know all the legislative requirements associated to it, which has an impact in relation to system cost as well as some of the resource and compliance aspects. Hence why that 25 sitting in there. You're correct, a month into it, you'd start to see that going lower, but that's primarily why, as we've still got some legislative change to come through. Till we understand that, wasn't willing to put a drop down, because I would expect it to be around 15% at the moment, which is where we originally had it, and then given those complications, put it back up 25.
Follow-on question with the changes in legislative requirements.
Can you talk into the mic? Sorry, Alex, so everyone can hear.
Just the changes with the legislative requirements that we know so far, Michael, is there anything that's sending up a red flag that will require immediate changes to our water services delivery plan?
Through yourself, Chair, there are a few little fish hooks that
It's a
we're working
pretty
through.
hard question.
Just with what we know so far, what can we understand?
There's a couple of minor ones in relation to just the financial reporting aspects. So we'll have to do a few configuration changes in the back end to allow that data to be captured. The other one is around the asset conditions and standards. The team is looking at what we record today and what we need to record going forward, and there will be a few additional tags to our assets so we can data so we can actually record them correctly and report them correctly. So they all have cost implications, and they're part of the legislative requirement. They do give us better data and give more information for the both external but also for any regulatory body looking in. So we're comfortable with the direction. It is minor costs, but there are costs.
Follow-up question from that, if you don't mind. You mentioned that, I mean, the ComCom requirements, we have to put together financial policy. Assumedly, everybody else across the country, whether or not it's a standalone or a CCO, also has to develop this. So are we working together with anybody so we're not just reinventing the wheel on our own?
Good question.
That's the other benefit of Morrison Lowe. They've brought together a group of councils who basically it's a collaboration forum. They meet monthly and share progress on who's doing what and what are the things that they are working on that they have in common and can share. So that's proving to be quite a useful forum to sit in. There's also through Water NZ, monitoring what's going there in Taituara, but in terms of just project deliverables and things we need to create, that Morrison Lowe hosted forum has been quite useful.
So getting bits where we can, but that's it really?
That's, yeah, so I mean, there's always, so particularly for those ID requirements, they're quite specific to what does ICC charge at present. So the effort is understanding what our charges schedule is and packaging that up. So it's a lot of ICC specific work with relation to those. There's bound to be, when it comes to the growth and development levies policy development, there's bound to be efficiencies in looking at what else is out there, so make sure we don't start with a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah, you go.
Did you want?
No, you go.
Mine's a different question though. So if
Okay,
yours
yeah,
was-
well, just on that, so, two questions. Can we get to see that feedback loop from Morrison Lowe? Like, is there notes that come through that meeting that we can just distribute to governance? I think, it'd be good to keep our heads in the game around what's happening and evolving and the learns that are here.
It is quite in the weeds. It's a bunch of project managers and water people.
Catch good fish in the weeds.
There isn't a minuted piece. It's just a collaboration group chaired
Yeah.
by.
I think share it, and then if there's some value in it, we'll keep asking for it. But I think this is a emerging sort of program, and to Alex's point, I think it's a good question around where we want to head with it. We want to be world class in this. Our ratepayers would expect us to be. So, all the information we can glean, if we can cross pollinate with other areas to get our waka running really smoothly, then the ambition of this committee and council would be that we do that. So, if we can get that information through, just as a bit of a sort of a review, that'd be good.
And just thinking, I guess, through the Otago Southland groups as well. There's bound to be something we can get out of those groups.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thank you, Alex. Did you have another question?
Yeah, just my last question. So, is around people and capability, and you've got in there that the cadet program was included, of course, in the WSDP. The budget is set to set the process up, and there are early estimates and currently still scoping process. Are we scoping that process internally, or are we engaging with others? Like, how is that whole cadet portfolio set up?
Probably pass to Matt on that one. He's better placed than I.
Through the chair, so we've been exposed to a little bit of this in the past and previous years. So to answer your question, we'd look at commencing this internally within council and starting that journey that way with national colleagues in the sector. We recognise the desire to grow the profession not only nationally but down here in the south, across quite a wide and varied delivery of roles and functions, I suppose. So, yeah, that's the intent. We've linked up with key Tier 1 providers in the past. Neighbouring councils have done similar work. So, yeah, there are a number of options we can undertake within the region to sort of steer the Waka in the same direction, I suppose, and advocate. So, it's included secondary school visits. That's included things like going to Careers Fest, Careers Expos, previously at Stadium Southland. So there's a few things we've done. Also an agency called Connexus, which is the national training hub for the water industry here in New Zealand. So we've got strong relationships with that organisation, and they've been a great feeder of key gear and personnel to bring in and sort of present to prospective employees of the industry we serve. So.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I'm asking is that there's been a lot of conversation around, I guess, the loss of people out of the industry, or I guess competitive priorities now that you've got the CCOs thrown in the mix as well. There may be some people who would rather work for the larger company, or others may have bigger pulling power than us and stuff. So I guess that really is the forefront of my mind in terms of long-term capability. Find a way to augment that. We may not lose as many people as we'd see.
I think that's what the program's designed to do, isn't it? And credit to you.
Correct, yeah. So we've got a very strong interest. Not every person's going to want to go to university and do civil engineering, but there would very well be a number of people out there that are very practically minded and machine orientated and very comfortable in an excavator doing pipeline renewals up D Street, you know, so they're the sort of people we're interested in as well, collectively for our region. So.
And equally, you'll be working with SIT too, because there'll be people in that stream, you know, and I know you've got good relationships there, Michael, so, you know, thanks. And sorry, Matt, I should have introduced you. So Matt is the acting GM of Water, soon to be the in position GM of Water next week, so congratulations.
No, thank you.
Righto, so I think we've had a good kick around of that, Andrew, so can I have someone move and second that we receive the report, notes the progress in our Water Committee update around the project, and notes the planning, and notes the upcoming milestones and dependencies. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Mayor Campbell. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Andrew. Keep up the good work. Alistair. Welcome.
Morning.
You want to just highlight or pull out anything particularly you want us to be thinking about, and then we'll have a discussion and ask questions.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I always struggle with these microphones. Yeah, there's a few sort of key points I'd just like to quickly just recap on the legislation changes that's obviously been happening in the sector. At the end of last year, we had both the Water Services Act and the Wastewater Environmental Performance Standards, so they were released by government at the end of last year. And so we had our legal and planning team complete a review of those, and just like to stress we're still ongoing with our understanding of those implications to the Bluff Wastewater Project. So sorry, I should have said I was going to start off with the Bluff Project. The project team have started collecting data to support our Bluff Wastewater consent. So that's in regards to the discharge quality at the Bluff discharge point, and that's just to make sure they've got some really good, robust current data for when we do make our application. We're still continuing with our assessment, in particular regards to other relevant matters that Environment Southland may want to consider as part of our application. And then also the legal and planning team have advised us, and this is post-writing the report, that we should consider withdrawing our current resource consent. The intent of that consent was for a 2-year extension. We automatically get about 2.5 years under WEPS. That consent would be processed under the WEPS standards anyway. And if we're going to put the effort into that, we might as well go for a 35-year consent than a 2-year extension. What I will do is that the next Water Committee will put a recommendation before the committee to accept that, and but we're just not there yet. Did you want me to go
we'll
on
just stay
to
on
the other projects? Or just want to start
what we'll do is
with
we'll just take them individually, just so we can clear them off. So is there any questions relating to Bluff for Alistair? Yes, Steve.
Thanks, Chair. Kia ora, Alistair. Just out of interest, I understand where we're at with the status quo. We're navigating our way through the new performance standards.
Yep.
But just noting that iwi and hapu can influence beyond those standards. E.g., there was an example making requests around the monitoring of taonga. As we make our way through this space, I guess where and what do you see the role of mana whenua in guidance and having a strong voice at the table? Are we clear on that, what that looks like?
No, we're not clear, and we're trying to understand Environment Southland's position on that. So when I talk about other requirements, that's definitely one of those. So we are starting conversations with Environment Southland so we can understand what it is what they will require. Yep.
Okay.
We expect, I guess we're expecting we'll have to do something, but what that is, I don't know at this point.
Campbell?
I guess on that same point, the dot point list on page 2 of the initial key findings, which says that irrespective of meeting the WEP standard, the Environment Southland could actually apply an additional requirements. It's completely opposite to what I understood
Was
the
gonna
WEP
work.
standard
Yeah,
to say.
100%.
I mean, it's 180 degrees opposite. So is that a supposition, or is it written someplace that that is the case at this point?
You know, that is written there.
It's what, sorry?
It is written, yes, it is part of it.
So part of the new legislation is that they can veto or apply, not veto, sorry, they can apply additional conditions to
conditions.
consent. Because, I mean, the theme of the change of legislation was that that was going to be, it was going to be limited around their ability to sort of impose specific conditions, wasn't it?
Irrespective of whether I agree or disagree with it, it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, that's right.
Of what was said.
Yeah, that's right.
It puts us back to exactly where we were before.
That's right.
Somewhat off topic, Chair, but
We're not interested in off the topic stuff.
if they're able to impose conditions like that, perhaps they could look at the format of what they're doing with the RMA, and that if we impose conditions, they then get to
Yeah,
they get to then charge
potentially.
charge us back for
Yeah,
it.
we will. Yeah, so I wonder if we need to sort of raise that with Penny, just to, because I marked it as the same point. I mean, it's directly opposite to where we were. My understanding, at least, was where we were heading with it. We were going to have more standardised consenting process, which was why they looked at changing the legislation, so it was more clearer around, instead of having 67 councils, have 67 variations of a consent. So,
I mean, it's certainly a lot more clearer around, the
Some
performance
aspects.
standards that we have to comply, and there's a lot of certainty around that now, especially with the new
yeah,
high energy coastal category. But there is this, a grey area at the moment around what the other requirements could be.
So sorry, through you, Chair. So how explicit is that? I mean, I've never read, other than this, what you've wrote here, I've never read that anywhere. I mean, it'd be useful to see where that actually sits. I mean, I wouldn't mind actually, if we're going to raise it with Penny,
yeah.
I'd like to raise it with actually in front of me, because I don't want Penny to say that's not the case.
Yeah. So could the particular piece of the legislation, could someone, it doesn't have to be you, Alistair, necessarily, but someone get that to us so we can have a good chill on that?
We've had an initial legal assessment, so we can share that with that regard
Yeah.
and get that to you.
Essential that this committee's across that, Chair, because
100%.
it's,
Yeah.
Not just a substantial matter, it's probably the most substantive matter.
Yeah, everything's changed, but nothing's different. Yeah. Sorry, I had a question just on the data. So, we're recording data at Bluff around water quality, basically out of the discharges. That's what the data collection.
Yeah, so previously the data we were recording was to comply with obviously the current consent.
Yes.
And so the new WEB standard sets different criteria.
Yeah.
So now we've started that process of monitoring to that criteria so we can demonstrate that we can.
So I know the Bluff community is really interested in that information. So how often are we getting monthly updates on that? Or what's the frequency of that recording, Russell? Sorry. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So is there any reason we couldn't, when that data's available, distribute it, say, through the Bluff Community Board and equally through this committee and council? Yeah, cool. Thank you. Can we just note that, please, Michelle? Any other questions related to that? Barry?
Is Environment Southland, if we make any decisions on this committee, can they overturn them? Just flip-flop them and so we're not
Well,
going
I
to
think they're regulatory, and their job is to provide or to assess a consent application. So
Yeah. So no.
that's their mandate.
The answer to that's no, because what their job is to make sure that we're compliant with the consent they issue to us, right? So where they would, tell us off or direct us to do something different would be if they could see that we weren't operating within our consent, right? So they don't have the ability to come into this committee, and our duty in this committee is to make sure our consent our wastewater plants are running to our consent, so we're fully compliant with our consent. Yeah. If we made a decision to operate outside our consent, they'd be pretty interested, but equally we'd be probably getting a smack over the hands from other people as well, so.
So is Environment Southland doing this testing of the outflow from?
No,
wastewater plant, or
that
what
onus
are we?
sits to us, because
Yeah.
in our application, we need to demonstrate that we're complying with a particular category.
Yeah, and it's, as Alistair said, it's against the new standards, so we're monitoring against the new proposed standards, so that's around nitrates and a few other bits and pieces, and it's a good thing to be doing, just to make sure, what's our baseline, and then any interventions we make, we can compare, have we been successful, in terms of altering, in a positive outcome, the environmental impact of that.
Question, sorry. Congratulations on getting the high energy coastal water into the WEPs. The question that I have though is around the Clifton wastewater treatment plant, and that where it discharges into the estuary at the moment.
Hang on,
is
can we
also-
just stay on this one and then we'll go to alternative water and then we'll go to that one? Yep. Okay. And no more questions on the Bluff one? Okay, Ross, Alice, do you want to take us through the alternative water one, please?
Yeah, look, it's we're very much in the stage of just standing the project team up, so we're procuring the team and getting that in place, and we've made some good progress there. And I like to think we'll be sort of up and running with the core team anyway in next month. And then once that team's together, we'll be able to get into those action items or the next steps that I've highlighted there. Probably just a couple of things I'd like to highlight is with regards to engagement with neighbouring property owners where we want to put the bores down and the test wells down. So those conversations are ongoing, and so hopefully we're started the process of getting access rights to go to where we want to be to put in our new production and test wells. We've also had some productive conversations with some of the businesses that are operating in that area as well. So that's the likes of Space Ops and Calder Stewart. So we're getting a good understanding about what other activities are going on around there. And we've also had some productive conversations around PowerNet about getting some good power supply into the area there as well. So things are progressing well in regards to just getting the project up and running.
So just to sort of bring us all up to date, Alistair, so could you go through the plan of record? So we've currently got test bores down, and then can you step us through sort of what our plan is?
Yeah, so currently we've got 2 production wells in place and 2 test wells. So that's where we measure. The test well is where we actually measure what's happening with the groundwater. And the production wells is the place where we actually take water out. So that's the investigation work that's been completed and we've done to date, and we've gathered data out of that. So this next phase is about understanding the extent of the aquifer a little bit more and what its actual capacity could be. So to do that, we're going to install a third production well and 2 more test wells further to the southeast of the current site. So the process there is obviously getting a consent to be able to do that, as well as undertake what we call pump testing for a longer period of time, and that will provide us with a better understanding on how that aquifer is going to respond, and also how the environment will respond to that water drawdown. Is
So
that enough
when,
detail?
oh sorry.
Is that enough detail?
Yeah. So when would you expect to be pumping water out of the ground? Even going well.
So the current plan is that will be first half of next year.
First half of next year, 27.
Next year we'll be
Yep.
actually pumping.
And I think council made a decision around what we do with that water we pump out of the ground. So the plan of record there is we just tip it back in the creek, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's drainage ditches there, so the intent is to utilise those.
Yeah, I personally think we need to revisit that decision around, looking to bring that into our network. But
So we would also have to accelerate the
yeah, that's right.
the
So
project as a home.
we did have a cost associated in the long-term plan for about 2.3 or 3 million, I think, which we decided to defer. So if we wanted to revisit that, we'd have to bring that back through council, wouldn't we? Mayor Ken?
I think another issue that's not clear to me, Chair, is whether we are talking about an emergency water supply for the city, which to me has always been at the core of this, or whether we're talking about a sort of full bottle alternate water supply, additional water supply, which was, to me was a broader scope, and I understand the reason for it. But the emergency water supply, I mean, if you go and talk to the public, as you know, I mean, very, very strong feeling that we need to get that emergency water supply up and running. So are we, if we did take it back to council, and I think we should, are we talking about an emergency water supply, or are we talking about a much bigger project? Because that first part, emergency water, is to me, I think, the part that should be done urgently.
Yes, yeah. So what's the process to that, Michael? Can I ask you? So not to get it back through council, we just simply need to put a recommendation from the committee to do that, wouldn't we? But in terms of the emergency versus the alternative, how do we work through that to make a decision at council? It would be, wouldn't it?
Through yourself, Chair, we have to wait for that time frame in relation to a council decision of 6 months prior to revisiting it.
Yep.
That, I believe, lapses in around April. So at that time, we can bring another report back to this committee in relation to the forward path of what you want to do around the options in relation to water. And there are multiple options, not just necessarily council operations as well providing it. So I just want to highlight that we can and are looking at multiple options in relation to that to bring back to then, while continuing to go down the path in relation to our current approval process.
So I'm sensing that we put an additional action point on this that says that the committee directs staff where they will sit to bring back a paper in April, a discussion paper around emergency versus alternative water, and enabling this committee to make a recommendation to council around one or two, t'other I think is the word. Is that the best way to do that process?
Through yourself, Chair, you can put a recommendation to request a report back in relation to, try and think so governance can write it in relation to it. Request report be provided back on water options at an April,
Is it either
April
or?
meeting.
On either an emergency water supply or alternative water supply, is that
Leave it open, but
Yeah.
To me, Chair, it's not just a matter of whether council is sort of flip-flopping in terms of changing its mind about this. I think as we've seen in the last few years, the number of serious emergencies that have been around New Zealand has meant that the public have become very attuned to
100%.
what could happen here.
Yeah.
And that one is the, evacuate the city type option. So I think as there are more emergencies, we're more attuned to, the need to maybe accelerate that project. And to me, that lies at the heart of it, rather than just a sort of changing their mind every few years.
No, that's right. Yeah, we need a sort of to cover the ground around, how many events we've had, which would, say that we should have a emergency water supply, and just go through all that sort of detail and data to make an informed decision around which way we head, right? Because to your point, emergency water supply is a different solution than an alternative water supply. And so, yeah, we just need to make sure we're clear on that and provide, give our public confidence that we've got it covered. Steve?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's probably rehashing that decision. My understanding was that kind of phase one of Clear Council direction was that we were pursuing emergency water supply, and that was kind of encapsulated in this first phase. And then we knew that there was going to be a second phase, and we would make a decision there around what increased investment looked like. So I could be completely wrong there, but that was kind of my understanding, just going back to that decision, was that we gave that clear direction that emergency water supply was the first phase, and then we would review further investment and timed out. Yeah.
And I think part of that paper will be, because there's, it's a new council, was just a refresh on what decision was made at the time. Not to say it's wrong or right, it's just everyone gets on the same page around the decision that where we currently sit, and then explores the different sort of proposals.
Yeah, so it was just me clearing up that I didn't see it as a flip-flop. It was about bringing a previous decision back to get a new council across and see where we're at.
Okay. Any other questions around that alternative water? No?
I just have one.
Yep.
Thanks, Chair. I think within this, great to see that the comms team has been engaged around the storytelling piece. So just wanted to make sure, I guess, that will that include decisions to date and kind of top-lining some of those previous options that have already been covered, and the why and the rationale as to why we are leaning into Awaroa as best alternative. I think just hearing from the community, I believe there's still some confusion around often those other lakes or channels or whatever will be thrown into, or storage will be thrown into that conversation. And so I just wondered, from a storytelling piece, whether we need to make sure that we've identified the decision-making process to date around some of those other alternatives.
Yeah, so the intent is to make sure the community has the information to get us, so they understand how we got to the position where we are today.
Awesome.
So probably answer the why.
No.
So that's the intent.
Yeah, so that you're working with comms around just continually keeping our public engaged around it. So, thank you. Okay, Clifton, this will be,
Yeah, so it's very much about getting the project kicked off. So, and with the new legislation, we need to understand, the key features of the legislation and how they are approached with Clifton. So the next action is to engage the legal and planning team to come up with an assessment of how we can best comply with the Water Services Act. So that's very much where we're at.
Actually, one concern I have about we're talking about Clifton now, aren't we?
yes, we are talking about Clifton.
I mean, one concern I have about this is that we must assume something for the long-term plan, which is only a few months away. And it's by far the biggest capital item that's going to be in the long-term plan, probably, right, depending on. So we need, in some way, within a short number of months, to have arrived at what we believe the most likely outcome of it is. Because, we must, because we've got to put something in the long-term plan, and I'm uncomfortable about just sticking a very large round number in it. If we can arrive at something that's got a little bit more science behind it before then. So what does the WEPS mean? Being able to take some view, what does WEPS mean for Clifton? And what the most elegant solution to that might be. And I know that that's maybe a project that's going to take another year or 2 years. But the trouble is, you've got to put something in a long-term plan. And that's not that far away. So I think, accelerating that decision is, I think, essential for council, because we're going to have to assume something. Yes. And the lack of anything, we're going to have to probably roll over a very large number.
Yeah, that's so. Let's have a bit of a talk about that. So when do we need? When's that decision, long-term plan piece in terms of time?
Through you, Chair, and I'm looking to the team. Andrew's gone now. It's my belief, actually, that the water is done separately in the long-term plan. So water doesn't form part of the long-term plan per se, because we're using the water service delivery plan.
Right.
I'm looking at Russell, I'm right. So it's a little bit different. So when we do long-term plan capital, we won't be looking at water.
For you, Chair, surely we've still got to do the financial planning for how much money we've got to borrow, what the implications of that are for. I mean, surely there's got to be assumptions made about that.
that
Yeah.
comes from the Water Services Delivery Plan, so we have to bring those assumptions around borrowing over from the Water Services Delivery Plan into the long-term plan.
Yeah, so when
it's
do we do that?
Not towards the end of the year.
So we've got some time.
So there is
So when
time.
you say towards the end of the year, is that October?
Yeah, we're looking probably September, October.
Okay. So that clarifies our time frame. And so then what's the process between now and then? So to Mayor Campbell's point, so we can get clear on sort of the number for Clifton that will flow into that. And so there's a whole lot of work in that in terms of how does it fit into the WEPS? Is that what acronym we're using? The WEPS plan. So, we're going to need what does this mean for Clifton? And do a lot of scoping around how do we comply and what's our existing model look like, and then look at some options around that, aren't we? And then have them costed out to give us some comfort that, broadly we know what our perhaps two preferred options are and our approximate cost are. And that's got to be done before
I think I'm right in
September.
saying that
So I
even though,
think what you're referring to is a business case.
Could be, yes.
I mean, even though there's a range and it might be a really broad range, essentially, when it comes to the financial plan, you've got a field that you type in a number, right? You don't have the opportunity to type in 4 optional numbers. You got to assume something for financial planning, don't you?
Through you, Chair, we do actually put in each of the different options and see what it comes to, because we have to give rates impact. But what is going to be really different in this LTP because of the separation out and how it's done, because it's setting its rates separate from the setting of council rates. We will be allocating borrowing to the water entity, for want of a better word. I don't like using entity because it's not one, to the water operations. So it will be very different in relation to that.
Yeah, we get that, but at the end of the day, the ratepayer pays the rates, right? And they'll have a component which is general rates, and they'll have the water piece.
They'll have their water rates will be separately shown to them.
That's right, but at the end of the day, they look and say, these are my rates. And so, I think
Nobody
the point that
cares
Mayor's
if
trying to
they're
make is that, however we do it, we've got to keep reminding ourselves that ratepayers are going to get a thing that says, this is my overall rates. It's this here and that there equals that, right? And we don't want to be going, and I don't think any council would have the appetite to be going out to ratepayers and saying, oh, well, your rates for that are this, but then you've got this other piece here, and so your actual rate is there. So we need to do the work and be really clear so we can provide our ratepayers by September with a reasonable indication of the impact of Clifton, in this example, the costings to the preferred options, if you like, so that equals a cost which then flows into your overall rate, and I think that's what we need to achieve. So that's the challenge we're setting in now. Russell.
Through the chair, you talked about the costs to treat Clifton or get a consent for Clifton. Just some background on our existing consent. Every 5 years we have to go through a process of reviewing the treatment plant, what we've done, where we're going to, and that looks at also our future growth and where we need to go. So we did the last 5-year review 2 years ago that our consultants, Becker Consulting, looked at all our options and they propose some high-level budgeting around what we need to do. At that time, the best option that they proposed was a deep sea outfall, which would mean we would take a pipe from Clifton under the estuary through Ototara and out to Reedy Beach. That was repriced, like I said, a couple of years ago, and that's where we got the budget from for the LTP, the last LTP. We reviewed it 18 months ago, and they come back, and the budget we had in the LTP is very similar to what their price was. So, to your comments, Mayor Tom, we are comfortable with the budget we have in our plan at the moment.
But that's relative. That now we've got the WEPs.
Yes,
now.
no. The WEPs basically said for a sea outfall, I think it's by, you have to be a minimum of 500 metres from the high tide, and you have to have a minimum of 10 metres coverage over the pipe at all stages of low tide, high tide. And that's potentially would fit in nicely with a deep sea outfall. They did also say that at the time that under the WEPs, we may not need a large amount of our plant at the moment, because you don't need to treat to a certain, the level of treatment you need to do is reduced. So for example, our wetlands, our maturation ponds may not be required.
Yeah, you go.
Thank you. That seems really counterproductive. Like, so if we have to build an extensive pipe to pipe out to deep sea so that the outfall can be out there, but the water quality is lower that we have to, or the standards are lower that we have to adhere to, would you not rather the other way round? We're discharging higher quality water and we don't have to build the pipe. Like, it just seems really oxymoronic. Why would, if we're already up to a certain standard, would you not want to, well, for environmental outcomes, would you not want the better water being discharged to the environment? Is there any particular reason why it is that way?
So look, I don't want to get into a debate on this now, but because what I think we need to do is we need to, this committee's charged with delivering our water services program, right? So I think we need confidence, and then flow that confidence through to council around, you know, what the options are for Clifton and how that fits into our WES and our capital program and those sorts of things. So I think we actually need to, you know, just stop the bus of our existing thinking and actually just have a bit of a refresh around things to get confidence around, okay, we are thinking the right way, to your very point, and then we can work forward, you know, this committee can work forward with confidence that whatever solution we're proposing in terms of our upgrading and consent for Clifton aligns with not only legislation but community expectations and ratepayers in terms of cost and those sorts of things. I'm not comfortable just heading down the thing that we did some work 2 years ago and that was okay and this is our plan and we just keep that train running and it's on the wrong track. So
it's a workshop though, isn't it?
It is a workshop and I think it probably is a all of council workshop. Russell?
Yeah, it's not to say that we will do that, it's just say that's what they recommended. As part of the consent process, we will have to go through the same thing we did for Bluff to comply with the WEP standards. So we will look at land treatment, we will look at desalination, we will look at every option, but we have to meet the WEP standard. And at the moment,
Yeah, sorry Russell.
and at the moment, the WEP standard looks like it's a DC outfall, but that's not the way we'll go. We'll go through the whole process.
So when could we have a workshop with council? When's the...
We've started a business case process. They are currently looking at the affordability component. And then once we've had our review of the legislation, then we'll probably launch into having a look at, you know, the optioneering around the business case, and then we can start coming up with some recommendations.
So what, in terms of we're trying to land in September to fit in with sort of long-term plan and budget stuff, an annual plan, so when would you be able to do that for us, do you think?
I think we need to go away and do some homework first.
Right, okay, and then come
but
back.
certainly within
2 months?
Within a few months, then I think we'd be in a position where we can put something credible in front of for the council to workshop. Yeah. So it's probably more the middle of the year as opposed to.
So I think we've got another recommendation we want to add there to 3, Michelle, around the committee requests a staff propose a workshop date for council regarding is it Clifton or is it wider sort of WES issues? Yeah, keep focused on Clifton's, yeah, so keep it on Clifton. Yeah, thank you. Alex?
The question is around, like we were talking about before, Russell, as you go through the entire process. I mean, council was sought and was successful in getting the changes for the WEPs with the high energy coastal water. Is there any possibility of being able to do that so that we don't have to go with the DC option? Being able to have a look at, you know, you know what I mean. We talked about this when we were out at
For the
Clifton.
benefit of the rest of us, though, what do you mean?
Maybe Russell can explain it better than I.
All right, through the chair, the consent that we have for Bluff is high energy coastal. Arelia Beach is not high energy coastal.
Yeah.
So we just can't do that. So we have to apply to a consent based on the receiving environment.
Yeah. So the receiving environment is the estuary for us at the moment, right?
That is correct, it will not be in the future.
It will not be in the future. So okay, yeah, I'll just leave it there. We'll have the discussion about it offline.
I mean, that's a really big statement there, Rose.
Yeah.
It will not be in the
Yeah,
future. That's just added $100 million to the budget,
And that
right?
was-
So, I mean, I think it's important that we do understand that. Council's got to understand why it is an absolute.
I apologise, that's my personal view.
Yeah,
It's
so
because
it's
when I
totally-
look at the WEP standard, if it goes to
Yeah,
the
I
new
think-
river estuary, it's a huge,
Yeah, we've just got to be
process.
cautious around this, right? So, and thanks for acknowledging, you know, that is a personal view. So, you know, let's keep it sort of wide, you know, make sure we take everyone with us around, you know, the things we've got to do is comply with standards, right? We absolutely want to do that. We've got to have it affordable, and it's also, you know, it's not just comply, but it's got to have very good environmental outcomes, the best possible under those constraints, right? So that's the trajectory of our principles, if you like, for how we're going to make the decision, in my view, but council need to determine that, and then we work through the process. So everything else is, a decision's got to be made. We've just got to get the process right, in my view. Sorry, Alex, did you have another?
No, it doesn't,
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
Barry?
Yeah, so am I right in thinking that our present system that we've got will not comply with the new regulations when they come up for renewal?
sorry, say that again?
Am I right in thinking that our present discharge from Clifton will not comply with the new regulations?
It will comply if we pick the right receiving environment.
As it is at the moment, though, it will need an upgrade.
If council decides to go deep sea outfall, we will not have to upgrade our plant at the way it stands at the moment, based on the WEP standards.
So the estuary receiving environment has a high bar with regards to the level of the quality of the wastewater, where open ocean has a lower bar.
Question on that, Chair.
Last question.
Sorry, last question on that. And the reason why I'm following this up is because I've had multiple questions with people from Taumata Arawai around this, and that, you know, the receiving area of our estuary currently also has a river flowing through it, does it not? So that is a far higher energy water body than just general discharge into into estuary
getting
stagnant water.
Not to the
So-
weeds, but yeah, I think, like your point's valid, but I think that all this comes out in a
It's not
workshop.
going to be long. Can I just wrap this up?
What's your
really quick?
question?
My question is, if we were able to advocate for amendments to the WEPs so that...
right, okay, like we did with Bluff.
Yeah, if we were successful in lobbying with Bluff, why are we not advocating for or being successful in advocating for high energy estuary waters so that we can...
Yeah. So to your point, I think that might be something that comes out of the workshop, right? So let's work through that process. Yeah, it is a good question, but I think we deal with it best in the workshop process as opposed to around this committee, because it's an all of council thing, and you know, it's a really important piece of work for our community. So, okay, is there any final questions? So we've got we've added two. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder receiving these reports, and thank you for the reports, guys. They're really good reports. They've got good clarity in them. they provide the right information. So we might have a little bit of a tweak on the structure of them so they present better through the thing, but I think that's largely just optics. So receive the report request.
Through yourself, Chair, recommendation 3 doesn't read very well. We can, the reason I say that is we could propose you a date, but it doesn't do anything. You probably want the committee request staff to hold a workshop on the Clifton treatment plant options.
So, yeah, receive the reports, request report clarifying our current position and provide any future water supply options based on the latest information with regard to, water supply. I suppose that tells us what we're talking about there. And request the workshop. So, mover and a seconder. Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Steve. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. Rob.
Good morning, councillors. Wait.
Still got a quorum. We've still got a quorum, so keep going.
The purpose of the report is to update the committee on the Three Waters capital renewals. We've made an excellent start to the financial year. The full $13 million budget has been awarded, of which when I wrote this report that 7.7 million had been spent to the end of November. That's now just into the early 9s at December, so 140% of the budget has been spent by the first 2 quarters. There's currently 10 projects underway. A couple of those are in completion phase and a couple more getting ready to start. Of note, Devon Street foul sewer renewal and Tweed Street foul sewer renewal program to start in the next month or so.
Questions? I'm surprised Steve didn't pick this up, but in terms of comms, so we're communicating with those communities like the Tweed Street and that sort of thing around how they'll, experience our upgrades. And why we're doing them, but equally, transport flows and those sorts of things. We're getting that out there so they're informed about the changes they'll have to make to their lives.
Through you, Chair, you certainly have. We've had 3 engagements with the Devon Street businesses via email. We have the database from Ollie at Great South. We've been utilising that avenue for communications along with our own comms team. So we're getting a lot better at that. The one on Tweed Street, once we actually have a robust in-place program in place, we'll start direct engaging with the school, Rugby Southland. But yeah, there's not enough information on the exact dates yet.
So in terms of that feedback loop, so you send an email out to say a business in Devon Street, hey, you're going to be affected through these dates and this is how you'll be affected. What's the feedback in terms of, hey, and if you've got any questions, come back to info@council.com or?
Through you, Chair. We have our own engineering services email where we use a generic email to go out. To be fair, we get almost nothing back until we start.
Yeah, but as we're working through the project, is there a clear communication stream where if they've got a question and they experience an issue while we're doing the work, that they come through to you guys? Because, usually what happens is they get irritated and they either go to the media or come to a councillor, which, we then have to loop back to staff to get the feedback. So is it a tight feedback loop around, if they've got any concerns, questions during the project, They can loop back through to you guys?
Yep, multiple platforms. We give letters that has the contractors and our project managers' details.
Yep.
We contact through Inteno, Facebook. Obviously, coming back through the mayors is a common one. We have multiple avenues for communication, as well as foremen on site, our site managers talking to people directly as it's coming up.
Right.
I think we probably do better than is perceived by one or two strong voices during a project.
Yeah, I'm not making a judgment. I just think it's a really important piece we get right. You know, it's keeping the community, up to speed with what we're doing. I mean, it's for their benefit in the end, but equally it does disrupt some people's lives. And if we communicate that, they generally manage that in a better way than just feeling like they've been surprised. So, yeah. Did you want to talk to that, Matt?
Through yourself, Chair. Our capital delivery team has got to focus, because when things do go wrong out there as far as communications goes around renewals and unaffected properties with water connections, 9 times out of 10 it's 11:30 at night and it's raining, and people need wash machines going and showers and so forth. So the after hours contacts is absolutely vital, that those people are contactable during these such periods. So, that's done through the on-site foreman right up to our nominated engineer engineers representative to contract.
Yeah.
So I think we do that very well.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we've just, thanks for your report, Rob. So receive the report on the update. Well done on your getting through your work. It's good to hear. And we note the status, and can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thanks, Alex, and thanks, Barry. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, item 8, the update on the independent ice. Yeah, Michael. Forget it, Michael, but it's not Michael Morris.
Through yourself, Chair, you'll see in the report there's a timetable towards in the appendix which gives an update in relation to the program. This report is just a report in relation to where we are in the progress. Everything's going according to the timetable, noting that the end date, hopefully to have somebody appointed and in a role, is at the council meeting on the 24th of March. So that's still the target, and we are progressing well.
No, I've seen some good, advertising. I think Louise is doing a really good job reaching out as far as she can, and I know she's contacting
Excuse me.
key people as well. So probably the only thing I've got to add to this is I've spoken with Mayor Campbell around this. If there's a really good young person, or not necessarily young, but someone that could do with a bit of experience, I think we're open to having an associate director role. Someone sit on this, particularly if they're from our community, just to grow our capability in this space. It's going to be an important issue for our community for a long period of time. So I've encouraged Louise, if someone pops up, to bring them forward as well. And I'm sure the committee would agree with that process. Okay, no questions? Oh, I can move.
Point. I mean, that's something that certainly EIL and Pernet and Holco actually have been looking at. And I don't know if we actually have them at the moment, but there might well be a list already exists of those individuals that we can tap into.
Yeah, so Holco does have an associate director in place at the moment, and Louise does have a list of people in our community. So, but equally, if we have people you think should be on that list, then put it forward through Michael, this Michael or the other Michael, so Louise gets hold of it. So, yeah. Okay, I'll move from the chair. Can I get a seconder, please, to just receive the update? Thank you, Barry. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And that is the end of our meeting. Thank you for your input and efforts, and thank you to staff for the reports. Keep up the good work. Thank you.